bonus episode. I like Joan of Arc so much that I drew her twice. So in this episode, we are going to talk about all these random facts about Joan of Arc. Not again. These are different facts. Something different, I promise. So there's going to be all kinds of stuff that I didn't have in my previous episode about Joan of Arc in this one. So let's get to it. Let's go back to the beginning. Some view Joan of Arc as a robust feminist icon, mainly because she did not allow her patriarchal society to dictate how she acted and what she wore. But here is a unique fact. When she was 16, just 3 years before her death, and before she met the Dauphin, her father actually did try to arrange a marriage for her. Joan rejected it, convincing a local court against the marriage. She had a greater purpose in life. Let's just be honest here. Joan was 13 years old when she experienced her first vision in her father's garden. This is what it kind of looked like. She saw St. Catherine of Alexandria, St. Margaret of Antioch, and the Archangel Michael and the Archangel Gabriel, who told her to go to the royal family in France and drive out the English from Orleans and put Charles on the throne. And Archangel Michael was a recurring visitor in a lot of her visions. Let's talk about Joan's name. You may think that Joan's last name was, well, quote, Arc. Joan d'Arc means Joan of the Arc, but like there were really no arcs. And Joan didn't actually know her last name. Joan referred to herself as Johanne la Pucelle, which translates to Joan the Maid in English. In her hometown of Domremy, she was known as Jeannette. There are also records of Jeanne d'Arc, Jeanne d'Arc, Jeanne Romy, and possibly Jeanne de Bouton. It is thought that Arc was simply an adaptation of her best guess of what her dad's last name might have been, which was d'Arc, potentially. Joan also couldn't write, but she could sign her name, and she always did this as Jeanne. That is the feminine version of John. Even today, in France, Joan is known as Jeanne. So, another thing, Joan of Arc had a famously volatile temper. But is that really a surprise? She really forced her way into the French army, and that takes a lot of guts. But here's some things she did. The girl did not hesitate to chew out prestigious knights for swearing, behaving indecently, skipping mass, or dismissing her battle plans. She even accused her noble patrons of spinelessness in their dealings with the English. According to witnesses at her retrial, Joan once tried to slap a Scottish soldier. It is also theorized that she drove away the mistresses and prostitutes who traveled with her army at sword point, hitting one or two in the process. Not killing them, just, spanking them. Get out of here. When the English would call her rude names, Joan's blood would immediately boil. She had a short fuse, which is noted in transcripts from her court hearings. She's sassy and very confident in who she was and her beliefs. When she was finally captured by the enemy in 1430, she was arrested on more than 70 charges. Here are some examples of what those look like. We have horse theft, sorcery, dressing as a man. She was also accused of things like being a heretic because, she was speaking to God and a girl and not, a clergyman. So I might have said this in the previous video, but she was not burned at the stake for witchcraft. Surprise! The unspeakable offense that she was burned at the stake for is actually donning men's clothes, as well as talking to the archangels, deeming her a relapsed heretic, because before she was like, okay, I give up, I don't actually do this, and then it all came back to her. It didn't take long. So I told you also in the previous video that she was burned at the stake twice, but this is actually because it does take a long time for bodies to burn. So her body was actually put on display after the first go, and this was to show skeptics that she has indeed passed. Her body was then put back into the flames until it had been completely disintegrated. Then her ashes were spread into the Seine River. But this actually didn't stop people from trying to pull off being Joan of Arc. And that includes her own family. From 1434 to 1440, Joan's own brothers passed an impostor off as their sister, claiming that she had escaped execution. Now, the impostor's name was Claude d'Armois. She resembled Joan really well and had supposedly participated in military campaigns while dressed in men's clothing. She and two of Joan's brothers, Jean and Pierre, crafted a scheme in which Claude presented herself to the people of Orleans, pretending to have fled her captors. The trio received lavish gifts and traveled from one festive reception to the next, but Claude finally admitted what they had been scheming to Charles VII. Despite their involvement in the deception, Jean and Pierre played key roles in successfully petitioning the Pope for Joan's retrial, having presumably given up the charade of her survival by the 1450s. Joan of Arc had a bit of a gladiator experience. She was the peasant girl who became a military leader, who then became a martyr, and then finally becomes a saint. And she remains a symbol of freedom and faith in France all over the world today. Now, I think we probably have covered everything about Joan of Arc. Of course, there's going to be discoveries potentially later, but overall, these are all these random tidbits about Joan of Arc. She was pretty amazing, and the history and mythos surrounding her is really cool. So, I hope you learned something today. Make sure to stay tuned for some of my other videos listed here, and for my next video, we're going to be covering Australian Aboriginals, the Wagalog sisters. Very, very excited about that. Make sure to subscribe down below, give me a like, make sure to comment, it really helps me out if there's a goddess you want me to talk about. Also, check out my socials. I've got Instagram, I have TikTok, I've got Facebook, I've got everything, you guys. So come check me out there. Yeah, everybody have a great week, and I will see you guys next time.